Tonight, there's no cause for alarm, and that's according to the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Monguno, while reacting to recent security advisories by some foreign embassies in the country. President Muhammadu Buhari reaffirms his commitments to free, fair and credible elections in 2023 as he declares open this year's Senior Police Officers Retreat in Owerri, the Imo State capital. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, says the manifesto of his party currently in circulation is a draft copy and is yet to be released to the public.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's rail transportation revenue dropped by 44.76% to 593.3 million naira in the second quarter of this year.
On sports news tonight, France midfielder Paul Pogba to miss the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar after injury setback.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule is asking security agencies to double their efforts in defending the country against criminal elements.
And in international news from London, Ukraine says Russia has launched more than 50 missiles targeting critical infrastructure across the country, including the capital, causing power and water outages.
There's no cause for alarm as the country's security is concerned, and that assurance is coming from none other than the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Monguno of the NSA, who is speaking at the end of today's Security Council meeting in Abuja, describes any heightened sense of insecurity as a distraction. According to General Monguno, the situation is under control following a series of arrests, of which the evaluations are ongoing. The meeting, which was attended by the nation's security chiefs, was presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Mizoke, reports.
Days after President Muhammadu Buhari assured Nigerians to remain calm and vigilant after a series of security alerts from the United States of America and other countries, which threw citizens into panic, he convenes an emergency National Security Council meeting for a debriefing behind closed doors. After less than an hour, the National Security Advisor emerges from the meeting and tells the media that there is no cause for alarm.
The issue of Nigerians being made to panic is unnecessary. The situation in various areas of the Federal Capital Territory, the situation has been brought under control. And we're trying as much as possible to work with our neighbors and within the domestic situation to work with our foreign partners in a responsible way without giving the impression that Nigeria is skating on thin ice and we're about to implode. That I would want to dispel any illusion about any heightened sense of insecurity. It is false, it is irresponsible for anybody to give that signal.
Corroborating assurances by the NSA, the Chief of Defense Staff and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency underpin that there is no need to heed false alarms.
There's no cause for alarm, and Nigerians should go about their normal duties as the armed forces and all the security agencies are well poised to protect them accordingly.
We are indeed actually expanding because this is a demand of the situation of the current times to engage, to expand partnership, foreign partnership, so that our country, our people should remain safe, and our region, and for also global peace and security.
Further concerns in some quarters over a sudden alteration of flight schedule from Britain to Nigeria from an airline is further debunked.
Those flights were not because of the alerts that, or that particular flight was not diverted to Lagos or cancelled because of the alert, but it had been done before. And a lot of it has to do with, as you know, the ongoing issue with foreign airlines. So it's in that context and not in the context of security alert.
There has been a number of security alerts issued by the United States recommending against travel to some parts of the country, but the latest, which stoked so much fear and mixed reactions, particularly here in the FCT, is a situation the National Security Council now concludes is simply a distraction. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And it was indeed a busy day for the president as he left for Owerri, the Imo State capital, right after the security meeting in Abuja. The president, who was a special guest of honor at the senior police officers' retreat, spoke about the coming polls, saying there is no other option for the military and the police than to deliver to Nigerians a credible and acceptable election come 2023. The event had in attendance the top hierarchy of the force, with deliberations focusing on strategizing towards the conduct of a peaceful election in 2023.
President Muhammadu Buhari arriving in company of Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State for the annual police conference holding in Owerri, the state capital. In the hall are top serving and retired police officers as well as the Inspector General of Police. According to the IGP, this senior police conference is holding to strategize for peaceful conduct of the 2023 general election.
We intend to draw on the outcome of these initiatives to perfect our election security strategy and action plans towards stabilizing the security and political landscape in a manner that will strengthen citizens' confidence in the electoral process and produce a credible electoral outcome in the 2023 general elections.
The IGP also lists what he calls some landmark interventions by the president towards building a better police force. Some goodwill messages from different bodies, Chief of Defense Staff and the Imo State Governor, all harping on the need to have a peaceful election next year.
The bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, has come to stay and will be the only machine INEC will use in the conduct of the 2023 general election.
On behalf of the armed forces, indeed, give the IG all the encouragement that is required, letting you know that we are there to support you and other security agencies in providing security for all our citizens.
As you may know, I will remain the relentless advocate of free, fair and peaceful elections in the country. I have always maintained that every election dispute can and should be resolved peacefully through available legal channels, not by violence or by heating up the polity.
A loud applause for the president as he makes his way to the podium, where he speaks about concerns for a safer Nigeria, particularly during the 2023 general election.
And at this occasion, I charge the Nigerian Police Force to deliver to the nation during the 2023 general elections. It is my expectation that force will maximize the opportunity of this conference and retreat to achieve two critical goals. First, to review the current and evolving internal security threats as they may impact on a peaceful and successful election. Second, to perfect operational plans that will guarantee a credible outcome in the 2023 general elections. My vision is also to bequeath to the nation a police force that is not only modernized but well-funded, suitably equipped and appropriately reorientated to effectively police our democracy and guarantee a stable internal security order under a citizen-led, technology-driven, rule of law guided by intelligence-based policing models.
This would be the last senior police officers conference before next year's general election, and the expectation from this conference is for the police to regain the confidence of all of Nigeria and ensure that the will of the people prevail at the end of the exercise.
Plan for peaceful elections.
And immediately after attending that police retreat, the president departed Nigeria for London for his routine medical checkup. The president's special advisor on media and publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, confirmed this via a statement on his verified Twitter handle. According to the statement, the president is expected back in the country in the second week of November. Into party politics now. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, says the manifesto of his party, which is currently in circulation, should be disregarded as it is still under review. The former governor of Anambra State gave the clarification via his official Twitter handle. His tweet reads, "We have not formally released our manifesto. I will do so personally. It seems an earlier draft copy under review has made its way into the public space. And until I release the approved and final draft, please disregard what is being circulated." Mr. Obi, who is one of the leading candidates in the 2023 presidential election, has always maintained that he intends to reposition Nigeria's economy from consumption to production. Meanwhile, the endorsement of the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu by some Afenifere leaders on Sunday has evoked the reaction of the acting leader of the group, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, who was absent in Akure. Chief Adebanjo, who had earlier thrown his weight behind the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, says he stands by that decision because it was based on equity, inclusion and fairness. Chief Adebanjo dismissed ethnic consideration in its choice of the next president, or at least the candidate it is supporting, insisting that the Afenifere support for a southeastern president is majorly ideological and constitutional. He was speaking earlier on our program, Politics Today.
But it's those who have left Afenifere, who are jealous of the solidarity there now, and who want to condescension that they are bringing him in. And I warn Professority, don't allow yourself to be put into this mess. I can deal with all of them when they were not there when we are doing all these things. But I don't want any diversion at this time. Afenifere is for Obi, hook, like, and sinker. And I made it clear in our statement. Presidency is not between the Igbos and the Yorubas. Presidency is a national thing for which if I will taught us to be one. So it's not a question of anybody offending anybody. On principle, as I've said, on equity, on the inclusion, Southeast must be there. And I said that all these things in our statement. If anybody wants to attack, they should attack me on that statement. They should forget the messenger. Don't be led by those people who don't understand or don't to confuse. How does that question of anything against him be coming here? The question of something is part of the manifesto we have. I have given the reason why the Southwest cannot be. Are you ignoring that in my statement? I said the Southwest has social orientation of races, on inclusion, on equity. And South-South and South is own. And the Southeast is the remaining zone that has not had a bite at this. That is the question.
Well, in part two, after the break, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule asks security agencies to double their efforts in defending the country against criminal elements. But that's in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. There's no cause for alarm, and that's according to the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Monguno, while reacting to recent security advisories by some foreign embassies in the country. President Muhammadu Buhari reaffirms his commitment to free, fair and credible elections in 2023 as he declares open this year's Senior Police Officers Retreat in Owerri, the Imo State capital. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, says the manifesto of his party currently in circulation is a draft copy and yet to be released to the public. And Ukraine says Russia has launched more than 50 missiles targeting critical infrastructure, including the capital, causing power and water outages. The leadership of Joint Drivers Welfare Association of Nigeria is expected to meet with the Lagos State government on Wednesday to find permanent solutions to the issues raised by the association as it commences its planned 7-day strike due to what it describes as extortion by the management of motor parks and garages in the state. The channel's television crew moved around the Lagos metropolis to observe the effect of the strike, moving from Oshodi, Iyanowuru motorways to Berger. Before midday, the yellow buses were at parks and bus stops going about their business. For more on the news at 10, let's head over to our Abuja studio where Markway Ogu-Yusuf is standing by with more. Well, it looks like from sunrise to sunset for us, Markway.
Indeed. Well, security is at the front burner here, Kayode, as the Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule is asking security agencies to double their efforts in defending the country against criminal elements and not cower in the face of attacks. Governor Sule was speaking at an event in Abuja and says this would save future generations from impending attacks.
When the US announced the security alert, UK followed, Australia followed, and people are being scared of coming to Abuja. In Nasarawa State, we had our first security meeting in order to address the issues. Because we cannot take issues of security lightly, but I encourage you, we can also not be cowed by anybody because of the issues in this country. Nigeria belongs to us. Nigeria is our only country. We must get up as members of the CDC and all the other security agencies in this country and defend our nation and not allow any criminals to overtake us.
Well, staying with security, there's still no love lost between the leadership of the social cultural group Miyetti Allah and the governor of Benue State, Mr. Samuel Otom, as both sides continue to trade words over activities of cattle breeders in the state. The governor had in the past accused Miyetti Allah of sponsoring terrorism in the state, but the group is now calling on security agencies to investigate Governor Otom for what it calls the continued criminal profiling of its members in the state. Their call comes after an expanded meeting in Abuja with the National Secretary of the Association, Saleh Al-Hassan, said its members are not responsible for insecurity in the country.
The meeting condemned the continuous profiling of pastoralists by the beleaguered governor of Benue State, His Excellency Samuel Otom, through his satanic anti-grazing law that he has been using to officially confiscate our livestock belonging to Fulani people in Nasarawa, Benue border, Taraba, Benue border communities using the terrorist group called Livestock Guard. The meeting called for the immediate designation, gazetting, and development of all the 415 grazing reserves across the states of the Federation as the only practical strategic step in addressing the lingering crisis confronting Fulani herders in Nigeria. This will include building of dams, solar boreholes, building of veterinary clinics, development of dairy milk collection centers. The meeting noted with dismay the recent genocidal massacre of Fulani pastoralists in Taraba State and called on the Inspector General of Police to set up a high-powered panel to unmark those responsible for the dastardly acts and ensure justice is done to the victims of the family to avoid our people resorting to self-help.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Minority Leader of the House of Representatives, Honorable Toby Okechukwu, is of the opinion that if the security situation in the country does not improve, citizens be allowed to bear arms and defend themselves. Honorable Okechukwu's stance comes over a month after the Senate President stated that the security situation had improved since an ultimatum was issued to President Muhammadu Buhari when members of Parliament threatened to impeach him. He was speaking with our political correspondent, Terry Ikumi.
The idea of you being a citizen is that you give up your rights to carry arms, do anything. In so doing, you give it to the state. You donate it to the state. And what the state responds to is to protect you. When they are not able to do that, it's a serious situation. And the only thing that can avert it is for us to have good leadership.
Not bearing arms individually, as you had proposed earlier?
No, I mean, if we continue this way, Nigerians should be allowed to defend themselves. Why not? You want to leave yourself to be killed. By so doing, such a call is meant for the state to wake up. How can you be here and every day you have a school closed because there's a security threat? You have Americans evacuating their citizens. How would you operate in an environment like that?
You know, listening to you speak about the security situation in the country would make a lot of Nigerians question the position of the National Assembly. I say that because a couple of months ago, the National Assembly gave the president an ultimatum. A couple of weeks later, the Senate passed a vote of confidence on the security heads and the security agencies, saying that the security situation has improved. Fast forward to today, do you think that it has improved?
It's not improved dramatically until I'm able to go from Abuja to Kaduna without the way I used to. I mean, if I'm able to do that, I would say it has improved. In my state the other day, they kidnapped a former SSG and also some students who were going back to university. How can I say it has improved?
Well, for the full interview, please watch Political Paradigm tomorrow at noon, or if you miss it, there will be a repeat tomorrow also at 11 p.m. Away from that now to multilateral relations. The biggest challenge facing access to affordable and clean energy in West Africa is poor financing, and this is according to Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Professor Osinbajo stated this at the opening of the International Energy Transition Week, hosted by the ECOWAS Sustainable Energy Forum in Abuja. He was represented by the Minister of Power, Mr. Abubakar Aliyu, at the event. The Forum for 2022 highlights concrete steps by countries in the region to promote energy transition and navigate the barriers preventing private sector engagement in scaling up renewable energy and catering to the region's energy poor. Our correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
Energy is the backbone of every economy. And with only 55.5% of the ECOWAS region's population having access to grid electricity in 2020, poverty levels continue to rise in West Africa, increasing by nearly 3% between 2021 and January of 2022. Hence the need for this week-long dialogue, an attempt by ECOWAS to highlight the challenges facing access to affordable energy as situated by the region's Commissioner for Infrastructure, Energy and Digitalization.
There is some investors, sometimes they are not interested because for them it's at a lower level. They cannot make a big profit, so sometimes they can abandon such projects because perhaps they target projects around 100 to 1,000 megawatts.
The dialogue has 6 thematic areas: policy, technology, gender, nexus, climate, and investment, which according to Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, represented by Nigeria's Minister of Power, is a challenge that must be addressed as Nigeria requires 1.9 trillion naira to effectively complete its energy transition plan.
lack of access to finance remains the biggest challenge for accelerating action on energy access and climate goals in Africa. Only 2%, about 60 billion USD of the 2.8 trillion USD invested in renewable energy from 2000 to 2020 came to Africa. The West African region received just 7% of that, about 4 billion USD. To reach our goals, sufficient capital must be made available in the region, and we must do our part in creating the enabling environment for these funds.
The core of discussions at this particular summit is the fact that ECOWAS's over 300 million population will not be able to enjoy sustainable development as long as its people do not have access to affordable, clean energy. While organizations will use this particular 1 week to market their products in the hopes of getting investments, governments in the ECOWAS region are being urged to ensure that they pursue policies that will drive down the energy poverty in the region to its barest minimum. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's rail transportation revenue drops by 44.76% to 598.3 million naira in the second quarter of this year. That's some business news. Do join us again.
Well, some company news now. Green Park Academy School, Edo State, has picked up the grand prize of 10 million naira as winners of the 2022 Seplat Pearls Quiz Competition, a joint venture CSR initiative between Seplat Energy and NMPC Exploration and Production Limited, NEPL. In the final round held at the Maguero College in Benin City, the Edo State capital, Green Park Academy defeated their Delta State opponents, Deeper Life Secondary School. The oil and gas company, which has been supporting the education sector in Edo and Delta states over the last decade, says its empowerment programs will now include other members of the communities.
From cultural to contemporary dances, a complete package entertainment for the audience inside Maguero College is the grand finale of the 2022 NEPL Seplat Pearls Quiz Competition. The organizers speak on the objectives of the annual event. They seek to improve academic standards in their host communities.
We are leaders of tomorrow. We are going to be facing a lot of complex situations, complex equations, complex moments growing. But there is one thing that we are going to learn from here. Being resilient, tenacity, agility, being able to think quick.
Through this means, Seplat has continued to develop two parallel things. One is continue to drive excellence, healthy competition among all the schools in Edo and Delta states, and also use this opportunity to contribute to the development of the infrastructure in the schools.
English language. The final round of the quiz competition decides the top 4 positions.
B, why is reduced?
B is correct. Green Park, your question. In the end, the bragging rights belong to Green Park Academy of Edo State.
And Green Park Academy, by my right, scored 80 points, and they are the champions for the year. A round of applause for that team as they lift the cup. Oh, yeah! They came, they saw, and they conquered.
Moving forward, Seplat says it plans to extend the empowerment program to other members of the host communities, besides teachers and students.
We are going into an era of PIA, where we want to also empower our communities. Beyond what Seplat is doing, our communities to be able to also come into the space and do what we call a community-led kind of development or intervention in educational system within their domain.
The 2022 NEPL Seplat Peers Quiz Competition featured 682 public and private secondary schools from Edo and Delta states.
Well, speaking of schools, the University of Lagos has emerged the 2022 champion of the First Bank of Nigeria Limited CFA Society Nigeria Ethics Challenge, beating 3 other universities at the grand finale of the competition in Lagos. The challenge is designed to increase students' awareness of the ethical dilemmas and issues they may face as future finance and investment management professionals. At the grand finale in Lagos, the head media and corporate responsibility of First Bank Limited, Mr. Ismail Omamigbe, said education, which is the bedrock of development, is part of the bank's corporate goals, and that's why it has supported this challenge for 6 years.
10 minutes question and answer, and as soon as the time is up.
It's the grand finale of the First Bank CFA Society Nigeria's University Ethics Challenge. From a total of 22 universities in several stages of the competition, 4 schools are here to battle for the top prize. But first, the president of CFA Society Nigeria speaks on the importance of this exercise.
For university students, it was a good way to start building that integrity in the students right before they start getting into the industry. And they know what is right, what is wrong, what is just.
Star Holdings infrastructure project is vice chairs in GWU.
One by one, teams from the Obafemi Awolowo University, the University of Lagos, the University of Nigeria, and the University of Port Harcourt take turns on their final presentations.
Details from the CFA standard, you should have aborted dealings with the sub-advisors.
Now it's time for the prize presentations, starting with the best speakers in each team. The 3rd and 2nd places are taken by the University of Port Harcourt and Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. And the 1st place goes to the team from the University of Lagos.
I'm still in shock, but it's excitement all around, and I'm really proud to see that the hard work of my team and I paid off. We spent sleepless nights, reading all through the standards amidst tight school pressures. So it really means a lot to us for recording this win. And to note, this is the first time the University of Lagos is winning the Ethics Challenge in 4 years.
For First Bank of Nigeria Limited, this competition is an extension of what the financial institution stands for.
As an organization that is that focuses on nation building, education is very relevant. And that is why, for example, we're supporting the University Ethics Challenge. And we've been supporting that for about 5 to 6 years now.
This partnership between First Bank of Nigeria Limited and CFA Society Nigeria began in 2016. Both organizations are aiming even higher to take the competition to West Africa, starting with the 7th edition.
Well, let's switch gears now on the news at 10. It's time for business news with Will Ibang.
Thanks, Kayode. The amount of revenue generated from Nigeria's rail transportation dropped to 598.73 million naira in the 2nd quarter this year, and that's according to latest report by the National Bureau of Statistics. The amount represents a significant drop when compared to 2.07 billion naira recorded in the 4th quarter. And at the same time, the number of passengers fell from a previous 953,000 to 422,399. And this is largely due to the shutdown of the Abuja-Kaduna Railway following the Kaduna train attack. Now, Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, says he's planning to revise the process of gaining the Twitter verification badge. According to reports, verified Twitter accounts will have to pay $20, that's about 8,760 naira, every month to keep their blue tick badge. Existing accounts risk losing the badge if they fail to subscribe in 90 days. Meanwhile, analysts believe charging $20 for a blue tick on Twitter will devalue the concept. Now, back home, the equities market brought forward last week's bearish momentum into the first trading day of the week amid the 3rd quarter earnings season. Laddie Williams tells us more.
welcome to the Stock Market Report. Time to take a look at how your money performed at intraday. And there it is, kicking off the week in the red. The onshore index continues the bearish trend from last week. It's down 0.17% at 43,912 points. Market cap 23.877 trillion naira. Let's see how the activity chart is looking. It's mostly green. We see volume there, 161 million units of stocks traded, valued at 3.47 billion naira. We see deals back up at the 4,000 level. It's been at the 3,000 level for a while now. Let's see what's happening with the sectors there. Banking, 0.80% down. All red with the counters we track. We see financial services stocks like Zenith Bank, GTCO. Even though we got that news that Tier 1 banks' interest earnings grew by 36% in the third quarter, they reflect there, it's down 0.80%. And we had a flurry of impressive corporate earnings, but the market just seems to shrug it off. Maybe the market is waiting for something bigger. That was the Stock Market Report. I'm Ladi Williams. This is back to you.
And that's it on Business News. It's back to Coyote for the news.
Well, thank you, Will. Still to come on the news at 10. Ukraine says Russia has launched more than 50 missiles targeting critical infrastructure, including the capital, causing power and water outages. That's on our international news and around the world in 5. That's in a moment. Join us again. To the foreign scene, where hundreds of Ukrainians queued for water earlier today after missile strikes near Kyiv caused massive power outages across the capital. At one public water well in a residential district of Kyiv, more than 200 people stood in line with buckets, plastic bottles and even barrels. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine says Russia has launched more than 50 missiles targeting critical infrastructure across the country, including the capital, causing power and water outages. There are reports that 80% of Kyiv has been left without water supply after Russian missile attacks. A map released by the city's water management body shows the number of pump points affected by the strikes. On Monday morning, missile strikes were also reported in the central Vinnytsia region, as well as Zaporizhia in the southeast. The strikes come after Russia blamed Ukraine for a drone attack on its Black Sea fleet in the annexed Crimea. South Korean residents have visited a memorial altar to pay their respects to victims of the Halloween crush over the weekend that killed more than 150 people in the capital, Seoul. Chaos erupted when people poured into one particularly narrow and sloping alley in Itaewon, even after it was already fully packed. Officials said 154 people had been killed and 149 injured, with 33 people in a serious condition. The government has vowed to undertake a thorough investigation into what caused the accident and said it will do its best to make necessary institutional changes so that such an accident is not repeated. CCTV footage has been released showing the moment a bridge in western India collapsed on Sunday, killing at least 141 people, and warning some viewers may find the following footage distressing. The 230-metre footbridge over the Machu River was packed with sightseers enjoying the Diwali, or Festival of Lights, and Chath Puja holidays when it collapsed, plunging people into the river below. Eyewitnesses said many of those who fell were children, and a search is underway for victims. The 140-year-old structure in Morbi town reopened a week ago after repairs. Officials said there was overcrowding on the bridge, a major local tourist attraction, at the time it collapsed. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the victims, saying, "I express my condolences to the families of the people who have lost their lives in this accident." A total of 120 people are now known to have died in a double bombing in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. The country's health minister confirmed the latest numbers on Monday. The president blamed the al-Shabaab militant group for Saturday's attack, which targeted the education ministry. The pro-jihadist Somali Memo website has reported that the group has said it was behind the blasts. Brazil has taken a turn to the left as former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva beat the far-right incumbent Jair Bolsonaro in the presidential election. There were scenes of jubilation on the streets after the former president took 50.9% of the votes. It is a stunning comeback for a politician who could not run in the last presidential election in 2018 because he was in jail and banned from standing office. He had been found guilty of receiving a bribe from a Brazilian construction firm and spent 580 days in jail before his conviction was annulled. However, with Jair Bolsonaro coming so close with 49.1% of the vote, the division which this election has highlighted is unlikely to go away. And Shanghai's Disney resort has abruptly suspended operations to comply with COVID-19 prevention measures, with all visitors at the time of the announcement directed to stay in the park. The Shanghai government said the park was barring people from entering or exiting until they received a negative result on a test, trapping many people inside. However, those awaiting their freedom at Shanghai Disney can console themselves with one positive, and that is that rides are continuing to operate for those trapped inside what is dubbed the happiest place on earth. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. France midfielder Paul Pogba will miss the FIFA World Cup after failing to recover from knee surgery in time for next month's tournament in Qatar. His agent confirmed that Pogba underwent an operation in September, but following a medical review, the midfielder will not yet return to the Juventus FC squad or join up with France for the World Cup. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has played down suggestions that his team are in decline, saying it is not 100% fair to judge the squad because they have had a number of injury problems this season. The German tactician admits that there was no quick fix and urged patience as the team seeks to pick their season back up. And Bayern coach Julius Nagelsmann will rest a number of first-team regulars for their Champions League match against Inter Milan, with top spot already secured in the group. While the Bavarian Giants will play Milan at the Allianz Arena on Tuesday and have already secured top spot in the group. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayo Tunde Balkans. Back to you, Kyle.
Well, thank you, Ayo Tunde. And the main news again. The National Security Advisor, retired Major General Babagana Monguno, today assured Nigerians that there is no cause for alarm following recent security advisory by some foreign embassies in the country. Well, that's the news at 10 for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Good night.